What's up everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is going to be Game Week 3 predictions of the Premier League. Last week I got 4 points, and how I'm doing this point system is 1 point for the outcome and 1 point for the correct scoreline. I got 4 points. The first week I got 9, so now we're on 13, and this is going to be Game Week 3. Before we begin, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. So first up we have Arsenal versus Brighton. Arsenal have been, I wouldn't say dominant, but they've been pretty good. They were dominant against Wolves, but against Aston Villa, I feel like they were the worst team. I feel like they should have lost, to be honest. If Watkins would have put in both those chances he had, Arsenal would have been on 3 points right now. But they're not. Brighton, on the other hand, had a good game against Everton, but it is Everton. And then they had a good game against United. They got the late winner by João Pedro, getting a header and nobody marking him. This game is at the Emirates, so I feel Arsenal will have the upper hand here. I feel it's going to be a hard game for them, but they'll ultimately win. I'm going to go with a 2-1 win to Arsenal. Next up is Forest versus Wolves. Forest have been impressive in my opinion. Even though Danilo is injured, they had a good game against Southampton. Easy opponent, but they still had a good game against them. And then they had a good game against Bournemouth. And Wolves, on the other hand, had a not so good game against Arsenal and got conceded on 6 times against Chelsea, a team who rarely scores. So it could be a problem for them. But in this game, I feel like Wolves are going against a team that's around their quality, so I don't think it's going to be as bad for them. I feel like Forest and Wolves are going to have a good game, and it's going to end in a 1-1 draw. Next up is Leicester versus Villa. Leicester haven't been impressive in my opinion. They got a draw against Spurs, but I feel like it wasn't deserved. And then they had a game against Fulham, which I didn't see, but they lost. And then Villa had a good game against West Ham, and they had good chances against Arsenal. I wouldn't say they had a good game because they didn't finish those chances, but they were, in my opinion, should have had the win there. I feel like this is going to be easy for Villa, a comfortable win for them. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win. Next up is Ipswich versus Fulham. Ipswich had a good first half of the game against Liverpool. They were quite impressive, and then they came in hot against City, scoring that early goal, but ultimately folding. And then Fulham, on the other hand, had a decent game against United, I feel like, and then they beat Leicester. I feel like Ipswich Town has had difficult opponents, both City and Liverpool, and Fulham is someone they will have more confidence against. So I feel like it's going to be more of a equal game. I still don't think Ipswich can beat Fulham. Fulham will still take points away from them. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw in this game. Brentford versus Southampton is next. Brentford had a good game against Crystal Palace, which they ultimately won. And then they lost against Liverpool. In that Liverpool game, they were kind of sleepy or like boring. They were like, and Mbeumo, every time he got the ball, tried to do a counter, he lost the ball, and they had to go back and redo. It wasn't a good game for them. But Southampton, on the other hand, hasn't had a good game either. Against Forest, they were bad. And then, well, they had a good game against Newcastle, but that's because Newcastle had a red card. So I don't even count that game. They even lost that game. So I feel like Brentford will have a comfortable game here at home. Wissa and Mbeumo will come back and probably both score here. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Brentford. Everton versus Bournemouth is next. Everton have been awful, getting scored on 7 times already in 2 games. Not good to see. Bournemouth, on the other hand, had a draw against Forest, which they scraped, I feel like. Forest should have won that game. And then they had a game where Newcastle scraped against them, where they should have won that game. I feel like Bournemouth will win this game, but they will struggle to score. It is at the Goodison Park. I'm going to go with a 1-0 win to Bournemouth, with Everton still not finding their first goal. Next up is West Ham versus City. West Ham had a below decent, I'd say, game against Villa. and losing at home, and then they had a better game against Crystal Palace where they ultimately were better finishers than them, finding 2 goals against them. Now they're back at home against City, and City on the other hand has had a good game against Ipswich. Apart from that first goal they let in, they also had a good game against Chelsea, but I still think City are not fully there. Chelsea has some chances against them. Ipswich got that early goal, so I still think they can get scored on here, and I think they will. I think it's going to be a 3-1 win to City. Next up is Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. Chelsea have had just had a great game against Wolves, 6-2, scoring 6 times. For a team who rarely scores, it feels like, who their finishers never finish, it looks like. So a great game there. Crystal Palace, on the other hand, have had a tough start. Can't quite find the back of the net. And I feel like it's going to be sort of the same situation here. Crystal will get a goal in this game, I feel like, because it is Chelsea. They like conceding. But Chelsea will ultimately win, have a great game at Stamford Bridge, and I'm going to go with a 3-1 win to Chelsea. Next up is Newcastle versus Spurs. Newcastle have not been impressive in my opinion. Got that red card, did scrape that league winner, but I wasn't impressed. And then against Bournemouth, they were also not the better team. Bournemouth should have won in my opinion. And then Spurs, on the other hand, had a rough start against Leicester, getting a draw there. But then they came back against Everton and won 4-0. But it is Everton. You got to take it with a pinch of salt. I feel like this game will be quite even. It is at Newcastle's home. I'm going to go for a draw here. No one gets the full points. 2-2 for me. And then we have the last game of the game week, the biggest game of the game week, and that's United versus Liverpool. The history of this game recently has been crazy. Either one team smacks the other, or it's a high-scoring game. Someone gets a late winner. It's been an entertaining game, and it is at Old Trafford, so giving United a little bit more of an advantage. United last game lost against Brighton, that late winner from João Pedro, and then they got a late winner against Fulham. So I'm sensing another late winner in here. Liverpool, on the other hand, have been decent. They haven't been that convincing. Against Ipswich, they had a terrible first half, and then against Brentford, there was a moment in the game where it just became a snooze fest. I'm predicting an upset here. I feel like more people will go for Liverpool, but I'm going for United 3-2 with the late winner from, I don't know who. I'm going to go with Bruno. Yeah, and that was it. That was my Game Week 3 predictions. Tell me what you think about them in the comments. Like, subscribe, and yeah, goodbye.